Welcome to Searching for Ghosts on YouTube. This is the revisited series, The Disappearance of Cayce Lynn McDaniel. This was originally in audio form in 2017. It's 5 years old. It is completed. You can listen to that anywhere you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever. Also on this channel, we do Season 2, which is Where is Bethany Markowski? Bethany Markowski was allegedly abducted from the Old Hickory Mall here in Jackson, Tennessee. I'm putting video to every episode in that one. Every week there's a new Bethany actual episode with from the podcast, and then we're gonna come back and do a revisited on that when I get Bethany's mother in here. Because if you've been watching, unlike with Casey's season, I had a ton of help with Bethany's, and we're going to get her mother in here, and we're going to dissect that season episode by episode. This is episode 7 in the revisited series, The Devil's Playground. Full disclosure, this is not one of my favorite episodes. So I'm going to pull some. There are some takeaways in this thing, and I'm just going to compile them in this clip, and they're a little random, but then I'm going to talk about it, tell you why this isn't my favorite episode, and where we kind of were in the timeline in this thing, making it, and what was about to happen. So we'll check out these clips first. September 15th, 1996, just 1 month after Cayce goes missing. Cindy receives an anonymous phone call stating that there is a corpse down in the river. "That's your girl, Cayce," the caller said. October 19th, 1996. A search was conducted but turned up nothing. 4 officers and more than a dozen volunteers combed a 500-acre area east of Milan. For 8 hours, they searched near the Gibson and Carroll County line. The search was formed after several tips were received by law enforcement. Lieutenant Jerry Hartsfield says he suspects foul play. 1 year after Cayce disappeared on August 15th, 1997, Gibson County Sheriff Joe Shepard, who joined the investigation recently, was asked if there were any suspects in the possible abduction scenario. Quote, "We have someone we think is a strong possibility, but no hardcore proof. We had divers out looking last week in a spot following a tip." Unquote. There are no news reports about divers searching any body of water during the first week of August in 1997. In the first week of March 1998, almost 18 months after Cayce went missing, law enforcement searched 2 ponds in the area based on tips. From the March 1st, 1998 edition of the Jackson Sun. Quote, "A psychic's vision brought more than 30 volunteers and the Gibson County Sheriff's Department dive team to a Milan area pond Saturday in search of missing Cayce McDaniel. After 7 hours of dragging the bottom of the 5-acre pond near Cades and sending divers into frigid waters where drag nets couldn't go, the search was called off." Unquote. The psychic was Dorothy Allison, who was responsible for the second police sketch that was revealed on the Lisa show. Allison stated that McDaniel would be found somewhere with a pond, fallen trees, a zoo, a playground, and a picnic area. The pond that was searched was on the grounds of a business called Best Parties Ever, which housed a petting zoo. Best Parties Ever was not in operation at the time of Cayce's disappearance. There is no mention in the report of search and rescue dogs being used. But just 5 days later, the Jackson Sun reported that Harry Oakes and Valerie were back in town, looking at another pond on Middle Road in Milan. And from an article in the Milan Mirror Exchange, there was another scent dog on the scene from the Carroll County Rescue Team that was assisting Oakes and Valerie. From the March 6, 1998 edition of the Jackson Sun, quote, "2 dogs trained to act at a scent of a human body alerted in the same area of a small farm pond off Milan's Middle Road." Unquote. According to reports, there were 2 reasons for searching the Middle Road pond. 1, a man that authorities had their eye on went fishing in the pond. And 2, after reading about the psychic-inspired search, a woman had reported a stench coming from the pond about 20 days after Cayce went missing. But Harry Oakes remembers something about that day that wasn't mentioned in the media.
We actually went to a pond, and I think it was near Milan, where the diver found a piece of a human. And he brought it up to shore. It was a chunk of meat, and it was human. And we found the railroad ties. We found that weighted the body down. We found the clothes and the clothesline that still had the loops in it for the legs and the wrist. And a bird came down right in front of him and I and took that piece of meat away before we could pack it up in a bag and take off with it. And him and I looked at each other like, oh, I won't say what we said, but it was like, oh my God. And that was the lake where Valerie was alerting. And that was the diver that dove that can testify to that. We witnessed the bird come down and pick it up right as where he put it.
Fast forward to 2004. A news report reveals that a Mississippi psychic interested in the case offers to help investigators. In July of 2004, police drained a pond along Highway 423 in neighboring Carroll County. Listed in a timeline, not the body of the article, was this statement. Quote, July 21st, 2004. A cadaver dog belonging to Carroll County indicates 2 possible locations of human remains in a pond on private property on Tennessee 423. Unquote. Again, the search yielded no results. Milan Police Assistant Chief Tim Wright said this, quote, This doesn't mean she isn't there, but at this point, I can't say whether we'll go back to search again. Unquote. While the Milan Police Department will not communicate with me, they have made sure to get word to me about the people that they do not deem credible, and Harry Oakes was one name mentioned. But Mr. Oakes has had over 12,000 cases in 31 years and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau.
The reason this is not one of my favorites, I had some help doing about 5 of these earlier episodes, say from episode 3 to episode 8. And I was kind of getting pushed to go in this direction with this, with the water thing and the dog, and because there's a lot of bodies of water that they're searching for her in. And I'm a big Occam's razor guy, which is the theory that the simplest explanation is usually the explanation. Anytime you have to start, and it might just be because I'm lazy or not smart enough, but once you have to start getting into water flows and if water can flow backwards, if a heavy rain comes and carry the scent so many miles to wherever, that's not, it's not good listening for the audience. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's not something that's not my wheelhouse, man. I can't speak to that. I'm more of a connect the dots kind of guy. And if something looks suspicious or doesn't add up, that's what I do. Some of the takeaways though on this thing, kudos to the cops, man, because, they were evidently getting all kinds of tips and it all had to do with she's in a body of water and they went after it, right? They drained ponds and they put divers in and that, that's not an easy feat. So kudos to them, you can't say that they weren't following up on leads, right? But if it was anything like the experience I had, they were probably running in 15 different directions with the tips, Another thing too is that I'd forgotten about this, that they had discounted Harry Oakes and Valerie, and they were done with that and didn't see that is useful. I'm being a lot kinder than they were, and I'm not saying either way. Again, this is something I don't know. I've told you before, I don't know about the dog thing. I don't know enough about it to know if it's credible, but and the bird coming and taking the flesh away is kind of typical for this case. That's I don't know what to think about any of that. But it does kind of show you, they started doing the dives and stuff pretty early on, which you could, like I said, it's probably just following tips, but you kind of see a shift in maybe she's with some older man, but now it's all foul play talk, right? And they're looking for a body. That's kind of a shift in this one. So, this isn't a filler. I wouldn't call it necessarily a filler episode. It is not one of my favorites. I'm glad that it highlights what the cops were doing, because if we're going to talk about where they might have fallen short, you got to talk about that stuff too. And again, I feel their pain chasing down some of these leads, and they weren't easy things with divers and everything else, right? And draining ponds. So, it was worth doing that. The main thing, though, the 30,000 foot view on where we were or where I was in this right about now, I'm kind of running out of things to talk about that don't include Mark Burns. I know I'm going to have to get there. And once I get there, there's a bunch of Cindy stuff involved in that too. Just about every Mark Burns theory has a Cindy involvement in it. So I knew once we went there, it was going to be even harder, if next to impossible, to ever get her to talk. I was trying to give her as much opportunity to come on board, because then, you don't have to get into a lot of that stuff. Maybe if she's coming in and straight up and saying, okay, this and this and this, and what she believes and all that, instead of having to chase down all these things. Because I knew the Mark Burns thing was going to be a slog, because just from reading on topics, there's so many people who knew that Mark Burns did it, but it would be a different set of circumstances, like none of them combined. So I knew a lot of that wasn't going to be true, because he can't be 15 places at once, kind of thing. So yeah, we're about to get into Mark Burns, and I was kind of putting it off because I really wanted Cindy to come in here. So but I put it off as long as I can, or as long as I could, and now we're about to get into it. So guys, thank you for watching. Catch me on the flip side for episode 8, which is Mr. X. And subscribe, hit the little bell thingy where it does the notification to let you know when a new one comes out. I'm pretty consistent about the days I put out. It's kind of fallen into a Wednesday, Friday type thing, but life happens, and I don't always put them out on the same day. But please share, support this. I want to be able to, expand this thing, make it better, and work on other cases, and just really, make a difference, if nothing else, in bringing awareness to a lot of this stuff. But anyway, thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.